Hi, I'm Wendy Yi, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 heavy games of 2020. Now, I have a special place in my heart for heavy games. I love to be able to kind of look at the machine and the cogs and the mechanisms and really dig deep into them and just explore all that is possible. And heavy games usually have a lot more for that going on for me, and so I love it. Because of that, though, I have a lot of heavy games on my top 10 of 2020, so like all games of 2020. So if you're looking for even more heavy games after this video, go ahead and check that one out. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. My number 10 is Federation. This is a fun, heavy game. It's a worker placement, and there's an interesting dynamic as you're moving up on lots of tracks and you're collecting resources and then trading in those resources for more movement or more things on this track. You're also balancing this push and pull of a Senate. And so the worker placement spaces are actually the same on both sides, but you're trying to get more votes on your side while moving up on tracks for endgame scoring. So there's this interesting decision of which side of my worker do I want to use? Do I want to use one that will get me more votes, or do I want to use one that will help work towards that endgame track movement? So there's some really good decisions here in Federation, tons of fun, so that's my number 10. My number 9 is Merchants of the Dark Road. I like a lot of what's going on in this game. It is kind of a rondel worker placement move or worker movement game. As you're picking up items and supplies and stuff like wizards' wands and books and armor and such, and you're selling them to distant towns far away. And so the theme is that you're a merchant on this dark road, trying to sell their wares and such and make people happy. I really enjoy a lot of what's going on with the puzzle board in front of you, of trying to fit items, of trying to have an efficiency around that rondel as you pick up stuff and drop off stuff. There's also a variety of different ways to sell your items to different people or to, the queen's, the stuff that she wants. So there's just a lot of choices and a lot of different decisions and different strategies that you can lean into. So I think that that's tons of fun. That's my number 9, Merchants of the Dark Road. My number 8 is Skymines. This is a reprint of Mombasa, but it's also such a good game that I had to throw it on this list. I really enjoy what Alexander Pfister does as he creates a lot of interaction with these companies that are exploring out on the moon or into space. And as they explore, they increase in their ability for scoring at the end game. But also, anybody can invest in any of the 4 different companies. And so I love that you have to make those choices of, oh, I'm going to work on exploring this one over here because I like the stuff that I can get as I explore. But also, I might help this other one explore as well, and I might invest in it a little bit because it looks like you are investing in it. And so maybe you can add a little bit extra work towards that, and I will benefit and reap some rewards. So there's some cool balance there. I also enjoy the card play of choosing what cards you're going to play at the beginning of the round, and then those have like different cooldown times after you've played them. And so you have to make those decisions of which cards do I want to have to wait a long time to get back, and which cards do I want right away so that I can stack them in certain locations. So I think there's a lot of fun with the card play and all of that. So my number 8 is Skymines. My number 6 is Lacrimosa. This is a game themed around Mozart and trying to finish his Requiem after his death. And so as we go through this game, we're doing some stuff on the map where we move around and we pay resources, and we have some area control stuff for final endgame scoring, a little bit of engine building. But what's really interesting about this game is the card play. So you have a deck of 9 cards, you draw up a few at the beginning of each turn, and you're going to place one at the top of your board for an action, but then you place them at the bottom of your board, getting the bottom half of the card, and that's going to be income at the end of the round. So there's some fun elements of making those choices of, ooh, I only have a few cards in my hand, I want to do all of these actions, but one of these has to be income. Or, oh, I really need all of this income, but I have to perform some actions. How am I going to get these to work? So I really enjoy that card play. I find it very compelling, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the game. So you can lean into different strategies. The composers that you commission change as well. So the area majority has a slightly different feel depending on how the setup is. So I think there's some really good stuff. So my number 6 is Lacrimosa. My number 5 is Viticulture World. This takes a game that I love, Viticulture, and it makes it into this heavy, thinky, cooperative, very tight game. and I find that to be very enjoyable. There are a bunch of different continents that you can produce on, and therefore different game setups. And what that means is that there's going to be different events each round, and those events will then point you, kind of lean you in different strategic directions. And I love being able to try different things strategically. It's very interesting because you can upgrade spaces, you work together, you have specific order cards that you need to fulfill, but there are ways to share. There's just a lot of stuff going on that I really enjoy, and I like that it's deep, it's thinky, and it's work, but it's good fun work. So Viticulture World is my number 5. My number 4 is Carnegie. I think that this was a lot of fun. It had a lot of elements that speak to me. You are building up your business, but as you're doing so, you're taking actions that then let other people take actions. And so I love that idea. You see it in other games like Race for the Galaxy, where I choose a particular action that everybody else follows. And so that creates an interesting level of interaction and reading what you think other people will do based on what actions are available, because those do change throughout the game. And then also you're trying to build up your board. And so you're having these balancing choices of, do I leave meeples in front of me so that they can work at these offices as they get activated, or do I want them on the map so that I can get other income benefits and bonuses? So there's a really good push and pull between your board and the map. There's fun interaction between the players based on what actions are being picked and who's in what locations. So I think that there's some really fun stuff. So that is why Carnegie is my number 4. My number 3 is Sabika. This is a game that I was a little bit excited about, and then when I played it, I fell in love. So it has 3 rondels, like 3 concentric circles in the middle, where workers rotate around and they do particular actions. So each circle has slightly different actions. But they also have an interconnection that if you move to certain spots, you can take resources that are in between the circles. So there's a lot of just interesting stuff going on there. If you move on to someone else's space or where someone else is located, you have to pay additional costs. So you're constantly balancing this interaction of, when do I move this meeple? Because you're going to move all of your meeples on all of those tracks in each round before you reset, and they all stand back up. And so there's such a good interaction with that. But also I really enjoy a lot of what's going on with the cost. As you're building buildings, they have a very simple, basic, small cost so that you can just instantly kind of get them for cheap. Or you can overpay or spend more to make them bigger and fancier with different and more diverse resources, and you can get more points. So I just really enjoy that stuff in this game is very doable, but there's also bigger, better ways to do more. And so I think that is tons of fun. So that's my number 3, Sabika. My number 2 is To Let 'Em. This is a board and dice game, and I was super excited to play it, and I very much enjoyed it as I did so. You're moving around maps, you're building up your engines and your incomes. There's just a variety of things to do. And the action selection is a lot of fun. You're basically drafting dice off of an action board, and the numbers on the dice give you resources based on the die color. But then the inverse of that number is going to be how many actions you get in that area. And so if I pull off of the moving my wagon track, I may get 2 movement points, but then I get 5 resources. And so it's a very cool inverse relationship that balances out all of those actions, but also not every action is going to have dice available on it each round. And so there's some fun stuff there. There's some cool scoring in between each turn that you have to kind of work towards, as well as a little bit of endgame scoring too. I enjoy all the choices. Like, I just feel like there's so many different things that you can focus in, and there's a lot to explore with this game. So To Let 'Em is my number 2. My number 1 is Woodcraft. This is one that I thoroughly enjoyed. And what you are is you're like these cute little elves that are trying to spend blueberries as currency and make cute little wood things. So you're trying to fulfill these orders, and if you don't fulfill them right away, they actually become worth a little bit less progressively, and eventually causing you negative reputation points if you don't fulfill them. So it's an interesting, like, balancing your time as you're laying out orders, and you're trying to work ahead. But what's really fun about it is the actual crafting of the wood. So you have different colored dice, and they have different numbers, and you have to match the orders exactly. So you may need to split dice and saw them in half and take a 5 level die and turn it into a 2 and a 3. Or you need to glue stuff together where you're like, hey, I have two little pieces of wood. I want to put them together and make something bigger and better. You might need to use scrap wood to just kind of upgrade a little piece a little bit more, fill in some of those edges you missed. I just think that thematically it's fun. I enjoy the action selection. There's this cool little circle where things get worth more the longer that they stay out and those actions aren't used. So there's a lot of fun stuff to do, a lot of variety of choices you can lean in. Great heavy game, lots of good stuff going on. So that's Woodcraft. That is my number one. Thanks so much for joining me today for my top 10 heavy games of 2022. Stick around for more, and I hope you enjoy the Winter Spectacular.